Hey everyone, and welcome to another interview on the Conscious Leadership page. First of all, we'd like to thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoy it as much as we do. Deanna and I have been going on this journey, wanting to interview several people, and ever since we've met so many amazing people, so many interesting, bright, clever, wonderful people. And another one today. So Deanna, is there anything that you would like to say about that with all the people that we meet and the journey that we started a couple of months ago here on Conscious Leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, welcome, Nico. It's a pleasure to have you. And I just feel like this was just such a divine connection for something specific. And I've just been anticipating and excitement for this for a couple days now, longer than a week. But like while I was thinking about this, it was kind of like I got this awareness of something that was kind of like laughing right in the spirit realm, that we were calling this an interview. And I was like, okay, so what's wrong with it being called an interview? And then it's like there was just so much excitement and anticipation around it, right, in the spirit realm. And it was like, well, you can call it an interview if you want, but this is like a divine assignment that is literally going to open a gateway in the spirit realm just by us connecting today. And I'm not sure exactly what that is going to look like, but I'm excited to find out.
And just before you start talking, Nico, what I want to say, I don't know if you know that story, Nico, but when Deanna and I started out, we decided to start live sessions. So through a Patreon community, we're going live on YouTube. And I think it was the second or the third live that we did, where we did an ascension, and we did it for and with 144,000. It just sort of came to me as like the 144,000, that's what we're doing. And we weren't really sure, what we were doing exactly, but we just knew that we had to do that. And so with that session, we asked for the 144,000 to show up. And of course, we didn't have like 144,000 viewers, of course not. But we just did it, and we let the energy flow. And after that session, it's like several people showed up, and another one showed up, and all these amazing beings, and everyone who's like, either already working on their purpose or trying to find their purpose. And yeah, how does it get better?
I remember Deanna and I were actually speaking about that as well, Ruby, and it is just the narrow road and the way of faith, how we collab together as a creative society like this, and how we're expanding and what we're having for our government, our real truth here. I love it so much, and it's happening right now.
Yeah, amazing. So do you want to do a little introduction of yourself for the ones who are watching?
Say again?
You want to give a little introduction of yourself?
Oh, yes. Thank you very much. So, hey, everybody, again, Nico Morales here. And a little introduction would be, I'm a man after God's heart. And a lot of people say that. And what I mean is, I carry a spiritual dialogue, even as we're speaking right now, or when I wake up and brush my teeth and, my hair doesn't need to be combed. As I wash my face, I'm dialoguing with God on my soul. I feel the heat in my soul, and I'm sending love and gratitude and joy there on a moment-to-moment basis as often as possible, even though we're getting distracted in different parts and paying attention here and there. That is the road of the spiritual world that I'm contacting here. So I'm learning along with all of us here as I'm speaking, and new and fresh things are coming out. So in the background, we have a spiritual school. It's called the School of Mystics, and it's about supernatural powers and abilities that we're teaching people to go further than autogenic training, further than meditations, further than what we believe or perceive to be consciousness, and going into antimatter, into the spiritual world. and how we use different practices and different tools, since we need consciousness for this 3D world, and other practical and appropriate ways to go about it that are effortless. So in short there, that's a little introduction. And I come from a background of voodoo, but voodoo actually means oneness on the definition. I could send a lot of resources for everybody to see. Pretty much voodoo is the sky, voodoo is the earth, and I could share a lot on that. But on my great grandparents and what was going on in Puerto Rico, we come from seeing what we quote unquote demonic activity, trees beating up animals, my cousins trying to sandwich other heads into the tombstones during levitations and flight, gliding through the air, and a lot of that stuff. And then another short spot is when my parents turned Christian, and going in a direction where they thought who was the Lord in the Bible at that time, and then seeing no power, seeing no healing, seeing, or even if it was it'll come right back because the person doesn't know how to save themselves, or whatever we call it, through the illusions. But now we are where we're at now.
Wow. Well, first of all, I mean, your energy is so soothing. I don't know what that is, but you have this soothing, calming energy, and it's just,
Oh, thanks so
I don't
much.
know, like I've been in the sauna all day, right?
They don't call me Ruby and Deanna for nothing.
Do they?
My body is like burning fire. Like there's just so much fire right now. I don't know what that's all about, but like
Let's ask what it's all about. Deanna, what's that all about, the fire that you feel in your body?
I don't know. I want Nico to share as much as possible, because I want to, I want everybody to be able to, tap into this and understand what he's carrying.
Right.
Definitely.
So I would like to hear, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, after you, please.
Well, I would like to hear a little bit more of what you were saying about the demonic forces, and you were saying voodoo, and I know, probably not in this community, but usually, people get scared or hear such a thing, and, they get all these ideas of what this reality thinks that is, what people are afraid of that it is. So, and like I said, your energy is so soft and soothing. I mean, I have a different view, I guess, on compared to average people, what I think of demons. But I'd like to hear a little bit more about that. Can you share something with us?
On like demons, right? Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So as we heard, even with the term voodoo, everything could be neutral, where attention goes, energy follows, depending on where we put our attention at. If we really know things are purified and sanctified and actually carry that on a truthful manner, then so it is, of course, according to our perception, as we know. So on the terms of demons, of course, there's a lot of theories, and everyone's always expressing their imaginations, and we honor everybody on where everyone comes from. But everyone always says the same thing when they describe God through our religions, and in a way. And same thing with demons and their encounters and their experiences, where people encounter them at personal levels and they have their similar experiences. So it's always a great mystery here, but we'll start off with the demons, as because there's different dimensions, of course. We'll start off with the shadows of what people will call in the Bible spirit of Jezebel, or they'll call them incubus, or the succubus. And incubus means to lay down upon, and the succubi is to lay down from underneath, to come from underneath. It's like sucking you in. So a lot of people actually have these encounters and wonder what they are. And it's like they wake up tired and it's taking their life force away, or they'll either have sexual desires or fear of bodily death. And these, and we're going to get into oneness after this so someone can understand. And these entities, it's like they also have the ability to kill people. And there's a bunch of video footage of, you can see the shadows on top of people's chests. I have bunches of them. You can see them trying to rip people from out of the beds, snatching their blankets off. I went through these experiences myself. And in the Quran and in Islam, they call them genies or jinns. In the Christian Bible and modern translations will call them, demons and stuff. So they want to milk people like cows when we're at a low vibration or low energy, and they really don't want to kill the person unless they try to break relationship from them. That's why they experience the poltergeist activity, the scratching and the biting and all the rest. Now, other people are very creeped out by these topics, but we're going to sanctify it in a beautiful way. So right off the bat, the cure to no longer having these starting off with sleep paralysis in people's lives, where the shadows will come into when the person's like in their consciousness, when they're past the drowsy state and they really can't move and they're getting suppressed, and they're eating like a plate of our meal and taking our life force away. So if the person falls asleep with God, if they are dialoguing, and this is even how the Quran and the Bible and Yoga Sutra, when they're describing a perception through feeling, an inner sensation, but they use words, they call it like the fruits of the spirit, but it has nothing to do with emotions. It's these indescribable sensations of the love that we have, and the fact that we're sustaining breath, the fact that we're alive, we're thankful for today, and we're sending it to our soul. And there was two practices that came before religion, that came before martial arts. One was called the circle, and this is still in the Bible and the Quran, all the books, it's everywhere, even in the ancients. And I'll give some passages as well. And the other one is called the lotus flower, as Buddha is always sitting upon. And this lotus seed is the practice for the cure to it all. So it's planted in your solar plex area where they say the soul is, and you feel a heat there. And people, if they want, they could imagine a seed, a lotus seed growing in their soul, and they feed it more love by putting their attention on it and feeling these inner sensations of gratitude and joy. As time progresses, it starts to grow like a stem and some leaves, and then the lotus will be at the heart area, and then a biofield lotus on the outside of the body, so like two. So let me go back just a little bit there. Now, these practices were taken away, just like we were mentioning earlier before we got on the podcast, where Ruby was mentioning that not to say the names of God because they wanted to take people's power away through manipulation and control. Right. Same thing with these teachings. They didn't want to give it to the mainstream. It was only passed down from disciple to disciple on there. And the prophet spoke about this as well, never to ask God for wealth or healing, or only for the salvation of your soul. So we won't become a sub-personality. And when people do feel heat, even after they die, it's described as eternal damnation. Eternity in the Bible is the word ion, which means human lifespan. And human lifespan can run up to 1,500 years. But a lot of the times we're giving our lives for the demons that we let live through us, because we're paying attention to external things that's being sustained by the power of God. So back to it here, there was so once we're getting angry, then the flower starts to wither, because you don't even need no thoughts. You can literally empty your mind and be filled just by paying attention to the love within ourselves, the inner dialogue, until we get a response back from the spiritual world. Then we take that same response, even as I'm speaking and y'all are doing it, and as I'm speaking as well, we can deeply feel our nose may flare up, our bodies may do some reactions of this expression that we have. And as we walk, talk, breathe, move, sit down from our bed, and as we go to sleep, it's running like a meditation, or like blood runs in our veins. And even as we fall asleep with God, these shadows and everything can't touch us, as we're being persuaded or paraded, because we always have a choice to choose, of course, and attention is everything of where our energy is flowing. So we give it up freely a lot, especially in the consumerist mind frames that we're in and what we've been brainwashed with through elite and government curriculum by choice, which we can learn from and appreciate the oneness and the technology that has been given to us, of course, and where that stems from. So right. Let me see if I don't want to talk too much and cover and switch past this. I'll talk about one practice so far.
Wow. I mean, I love the way you explained it. You've used different words than I would do, but everything you said just resonates, and totally with the way that you perceive the demons and where they come from, and the way that they sort of do their jobs, if you would call them jobs, or whatever it is that they're doing. And with the part of it you're saying that before going to sleep, right? And about the lotus flower. And I love the lotus flower idea. I actually have never really thought about it that way. I mean, I do think about like opening of the chakras like a flower, of course, and one of the is in the solar plexus area as
And the
well.
44,000 with the chakras. Yes.
Right, right. And another thing that I do, since I'm doing what I'm doing, is every night before I go to sleep and every morning when I wake up, I activate the thymus gland. And to activate the thymus gland is for you to like run your energy. And then I would say, I would run my thymus gland to my highest frequency. That's what I would ask. And I would always ask it before I go to bed. And some people who are not familiar with energy are like, what, you're gonna run it? You're gonna let your, ask energy to run before you go to sleep? Why would you? I'm like, but it's not like energy to, get up and run. It's like your energy, your frequency, your alignment. And I love the way that you were explaining it. It's like, it's also your connection and sort of, well, quote unquote safety. I don't like the word safety, but in a way that it connects you to you. And then when I wake up, I switch it on again to my highest frequency to start the day. And so are all these little things that I recognize and I also practice, but then sometimes use different words, but the intention is the same.
Exactly right. That's the truth. Another example of that would be if people are using affirmations or like the Jesus prayers back in the days from the saints. And these affirmations were to advocate an inner sensation deeply within that's indescribable that was used with words. So let's say they started off externally where let's say, Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me. And then they'll repeat it with their mouth and then they'll take it to their mind and then they'll take it to their heart, which would be their soul through the translation as the organ. And with affirmations as well, the consciousness or the material realm, thought is an element of consciousness and it's also material with matter. And it also divides. So it'll even say sometimes we go, I am spirit. Consciousness say, okay, if you are spirit, then you don't need anything else. And it will put us to the test in that manner and leave us empty at the end if we're not having that internal dialogue that goes past energy and motion, as in emotions. It goes past the chemistry reactions. But when we're taking the dialogue into the spiritual world, and I love the fact that you did mention how we all speak similar language, like words are meant to or to disguise vibrations, right? Words are like used to hide vibrations from what we really mean. And if we really live like that, of course, in our relationships with everyone and around us, then we're being our true selves instead of letting words separate. Because even the word Satan in the Bible, Santana, is katarigizo. It means to brand, to title, to name, pretty much to separate, to say that this is separate from me or that's separate, a tree separate from me. And I have this teaching as well, is in Revelation 13:18, it says, let us calculate the number of the man, which is the number of beast, and every man be a liar. It says it's 666, 6 protons, neutrons, and electrons for a carbon or carnal based molecule. And this is what the matrix of this world is made out of through binary code, and it's done through our perception. And there's a study that shows that energy that you see when you go to the beach or you just look at the sky or close your lights off in your room, you see all these little fizzle dots everywhere, which Nikola Tesla said he wanted to light the whole world up with. And they call it in India as well, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. It never leaves us, it never forsakes us. It's literally here right now. This eternal vibrating static that never changes. It's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And when we observe it, we can actually see sigils and old hieroglyphics written in it. And it can be used to be examine the spiritual world, so we don't forget at times when we see like biofields or we see static going on. It's also a great reminder. And a lot of the saints back in the days, yogis and lamas, would take their finger and write on the veil with the finger of God is what they'll call it. But they'll take their finger and they'll write up air writing with the sigils, and they'll have instant manifestation, whether they do the sign of the Ankh or these ancient symbols. But behind every image is a shadow. And these are the gates or the doorways to these shadow creatures in our life, because they feed off of images. And anything with images, shapes, colors, and forms has to do with branding, titles, names. And even in our meditations, when we have encounters that we think are really encounters, most of the time it's persuaded. So on a previous podcast, Ruby and Deanna, someone asked me, what is your relationship with Jesus Christ? That type of thing. And I said, if Jesus Christ came to me in my meditation or during my encounters, I would say, depart from me. I never knew you. Due to the fact I reject idols. And even in the Quran, it says, if an angel visits your house, to remove all images. So we see people take it literally and will take the pictures and it will turn them down. But it's speaking within the temple of ourselves. For deception is done this way. But I'll let you guys continue. I'm a big talker.
Oh, wow. Well,
Mm.
the thing that I still want to sort of jump back to
Mhm.
is when you were talking about, you know, the sleep, what we would call sleep paralyzed, which is actually not actual paralyzed. I'd like to talk a little bit more about that, because I think that
Yes,
it's a
absolutely.
little bit, you know, it's more frequent than we would think, or a lot of people don't really talk about it or don't recognize it or think that it's
Yeah.
something else. And I think it's so much more common than people think.
Super, super. It's in the corner of everyone's homes, whether they know it or not. As soon as the lights go off, it's been raised since the pandemic and everything's come up due to fear. And there's actually tests being run, and I signed up for one of them from a few of my Anunnaki friends, and they're real and they're here. It's mind blowing for a lot of people, but we're going over there for some tests to be done for the succubus and the incubus to be recorded as well, to get on top of me, and to see how many attempts I can use perception through feelings until I can shake it off completely or not be affected by my external realm, because it is material still as it manifests. Because a lot of times there's already tests that have been doing and taking place of pretty much going into the depths of hell with the demons and having a battle, not with flesh and blood. So it's another cool way that people could do this test at home, but I wouldn't suggest it at all if someone's immature, because at that time the state happens, we seem like we could talk up a big talk, but when the time comes, there's a lot of fear involved that it goes past the norm. So my past experiences, especially when I was in the military, I would show people the shadows and they'll come all the way out. And if I walk backwards, I'm able to actually go over there and touch them. A lot of times I like to run, but as soon as I face my eyes towards them, they like to run away. There's also a great video of a man. He was a safari man. He catches animals barehanded, elephants barehanded, tigers, kangaroos, everything. And he showed that there was a chimp in the background, or a baboon actually, and he was actually like crouched like this. And whenever and you could see the monkey on his background over here, and it was just chilling, doing his thing, wasn't worried about him. The moment he looks, the monkey starts to get paranoid, like the shadow creatures. And the moment he walks backwards, which I've done before seeing the video, and you can go all the way up to him completely. And the moment that you just give this attention, and it's due to the fact of the double slit experiment, where a conscious observer can, because how the double slit experiment works, I'll break it down for everyone listening here as well, is that they took these two particles, and pretty much on the test for a better understanding is whenever attention goes, energy flows. So whenever we're observing something, we collapse the wave particle of potentiality. And what we mean by potentiality is if someone has cancer, that's a program of waves running within them. But whenever it's observed instead of judged, I have cancer, I need medication, I need to get this thing out of me. They're no longer Jesus, friend of sinners, or loving the prodigal son. Or Paul says he became all things, a Jew, a Gentile, and all the rest. So whenever it's observed and felt deeply, like, this is interesting.
Right.
And
what is it?
then it starts to move, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
observation equals activation, and our equal proportion of our awareness is an equal proportion of our connection. So we show this with aerokinesis, or if we're going to split the water, with just using the mind, the universal mind, not even the power of God. It is the power of God that sustains it, that comes out, but we're using it almost for like an anti-version of it for this material world. Is we'll observe the leaves on the tree. And the moment you start observing the leaves, you see that they'll react, and you can feel this intelligence behind it, and it'll start to move. And you can see the particles going around, and then the biofield and everything will start to show itself during observation. And if we keep unconditional love instead of the ego, if we go in with the ego and try to like manipulate energy, which it can't be manipulated like that, but if we come with harmony, instead of what we thought was dominion, but it's harmonization. We can have a relationship. And if I move, it'll move. If I take my hands and start putting on the keyboard matrix of binary codes, and I feel the same love I have for my mother, I have for my dog, or I have for my wife, that type of love, then I have instant access. I'm wearing the 1.777, the seal of God. I have the access code of unconditional love. But yeah, once I come with ego, then the system will shut me out because I'm not being authentic. I'm not being genuine or my true self. I'm trying to, walk with power. And then with your solar plex, power and control of the chakra, the electromagnetics will mess up. People will end up, I spoke before on this one, if I usually see people with a lot of, if I feel down or I can feel it within myself, their stomach's upset or their intestines. And intestines is used to transport liquids to solids. And intestines is used for transportation, to transport, right? And we also use our intestines when we transport an object for telekinesis from here to here, or the higher ups will use their body, but it's using the organ of the intestines, and the chakra spirals as well, how the vortex is done through math and the Fibonacci. So not to talk too fast on this, but when I run into people, it'll be very practical. And I feel that about them, and I can see it in our countenance. I say, hey, is your car right now in the shop? Their transportation is messed up. And that's why they're having diarrhea, the stomach hurts, or things like that,
Wow.
for an example. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, I love the way that you were explaining that, because I was actually having a similar conversation today with a friend of mine his wife just recently went to the hospital and they discovered the illness MS. And I was having a conversation with him because I could sort of see this coming a while ago, could see that she was like storing energies in her body and just, keeping a lot inside. And so again, we were talking today, and the same way as you were explaining it, I was explaining it in a different way with the molecules. And I was actually saying that this MS or whatever it is, she's been judging herself so much. Like, I know from what he's been telling me, she's been judging her body so long. She's very insecure and very jealous of what she experienced in the past. And I was like, when we judge our bodies that much, all these practices of where you look at the water molecule, and if you have like beautiful classical music, the water molecule will be a beautiful star shape, and if you use different music, then it would just change shape. And I was like, the same is with judgment. And she's been judging herself over and over and over again. And that's what the MS is showing. It's like it's showing that her whole body, all the molecules of her body are just, they're all upset, they're not the star shape that they're supposed to be. And instead of, what she is doing is like, she's like, what is this? I don't want this in my body. I want this gone. And you're actually telling yourself, or you're telling your own molecules to leave, to get the fuck out of here, because I don't want you there. Well, it's like, if you do it the other way around, of looking at the molecules like, okay, so this is what I've been doing to you. So sorry that I've been so judgmental. Sorry that I've been abusing you this way. And what will it take for you to become that beautiful star shape again? What will it take? What will I have to be? What will I have to do? And that's such a different way of looking at diseases and looking at healing the body. And I could like really just perceive it. I could perceive it like in the energy, but also like with my eyes in how to sort of communicate with those different molecules, and like almost treat them like a little child, right? If child is crying, you wouldn't send it away. You'd be like, hey, listen, nothing's wrong with you, or you're okay, and I love you, and we'll make it better. That's the way we talk to children, but we never speak to energy like that.
Truly.
And I know it's sort of a different approach, but I could see the similarities in what you were saying, and the way that I talk about it. And it doesn't really matter what you do. It does matter what words you use, of course, but if the intention behind the words are the same, then it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Exactly.
How is this for you, Deanna, with your knowledge of the Bible? Because Nico, says a couple of things that are in the Bible. That what's your take on that? Do you see some similarities or?
Yeah, it's very interesting. And he really like kind of, probably what's fascinating to me is he is a person that can kind of challenge my mind and talk about things that most people don't talk about. And those are the kind of people I'm like, yes, I want to pick their brain and I want to know more. And so it's like, I don't want to hear the same things over and over and over that just have never really worked. You know what I mean? And so I feel like this conversation is just real and genuine, and it's something that he's actually living. It's not just something that he's, trying to teach a bunch of knowledge and doesn't actually have the manifestation behind it, which that in itself is different. But it's also, I feel like it's some sort of a more of a bridge even between like, consciousness type terminology and the Bible. It's kind of like you really bring those two together, which you had that on your email, something about the difference of consciousness and spirituality and how that ties into oneness. Is that correct? Would that be a good time to kind of tap into that?
Perfect. That'd be great. So yeah, we could speak about that as well. So of course, with terminology and how we'll break it down is, as we were saying earlier, as we were speaking about from a biblical perspective of what consciousness is. And it's actually the world of the inevitable dead, in a way, where it's the 3D world of what we have right here. And consciousness only runs from the first dimension through the sixth. And the soul is at the seventh dimension. Now, your personality or your spirit. Your personality is us choosing either the external world or the internal spiritual world. And this is our chance to choose with that. So once again, if we're paying attention a lot to Satan or the egotistic nature of choosing the external things or the illusions of what consciousness materials could bring us. And even there's studies that show in science now that consciousness is material, just like a thought is an element of consciousness, and it comes from the outside in. And once we observe that we're not our thoughts, as we know through observation, if we write them all down and be honest as possible, the thoughts of killing our loved ones that come in, that's not ours, that we don't take captive, and we're like, what the heck is going on here? But if we actually write them all down and observe what's really going on, we can see that it's not us, because we're personality, we're spirit. So with that being said, we start to separate from biblically terms Satan, and we start to master our emotions and put Satan under our foot. And that's when our personality or our spirit starts to merge with our soul, and the two become one. And when the two become one, we have a figure of speech, an angel. And a lot of the friends that we have, the Anunnaki, are very close, considered to be an angel, very close, but they're people just like you and I, very humble, and a lot more love, maybe, as we see, and wisdom. So this can also tie back in the difference between consciousness and the spiritual world. Is what we're saying is the consciousness is matter and the spiritual world is antimatter. And like in the Quran, it says that if Allah were to show his face, a whole mountain would disappear. Or there's another one as well. There's a lot that are very similar to that. And this happens as well on the recent video that I came out with these angel encounters that come down as almost like a one dimension, as a circle or even a ball, as it starts to become 3D, or the lowest manifestations of the angels that come down with no face. And the brightness is beyond like any color. It's super bright. So the difference there is we end up getting deceived, especially through our meditations that we have. And we think meditations are also spiritual practices, but they're actually involved in consciousness through 1 through 6. Now, when we go past that, when we say the soul is at the 7th dimension, it is a door, it is a portal to the spiritual world. And to use terms in grammar, it's always funny when speaking to say that God's at the 72nd dimension sounds, funny to say. How do you know which exact dimension God is on? So I like to always toss that stuff to the side because it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter anyway. But we know through indescribable sensations of where we are when we're going deeply within. Like for Deanna, doesn't believe in God, and Ruby's like, what? She knows him. So in her mind, I got you there for a second, huh?
I was like, wait a minute, you gotta clear this up.
So,
What are you
even
saying there? Yeah.
or even to put a masculine image on God or feminine, really. Same with the angels, and even with the succubus and the incubus, there's really no genders except what's being met. And even these demons operate in the realm of consciousness themselves. So to say a demon versus God, it's like something silly to compare to a big boxer of the world versus a baby in a way.
Right.
No matter.
I made a joke the other day on my Instagram page where, like, you know, you would be dating somebody and that guy would say like, hey, I'm spiritual too. And the answer would be, well, you know, demons are spiritual too. So be more specific, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And
big time. That's super true.
Speaking about the demons, because I wanted to come back on what you were telling earlier about, you know, clearing the demons. Because you were saying something, but you were going pretty fast into like make them leave, or that because I work with demon clearings as well, and I was just can you give me a little bit more information of what you were talking about?
Definitely. Really, the demons. Through my perspective, I don't believe we co-create, but more that everything comes from within our soul, and the soul is given to a human on the 8th day. So not to say that we create the demon, but in the way we're using that power from the power of God to what's the word? Energize the demon, where it can eat off of that pure light. And same with the grays. They really want that pure energy source that come from our soul in that area. But we'll get on that topic in just a second. So back to the one that you were saying, is that it's really misused energy that we're sending out that attract like magnets or magnetism, and it can make the gorilla or the demon, you know, stronger and bigger as the people are going through it until their day has ended or their life has ended. Is this what we're aiming at here about that? Because we can look at it like magnetisms, even with the chakras, when something's off of balance, and these are portals as well.
Well, the way that like the point that I'm making is, I guess you're totally right into sort of, I mean, that I'm not saying you're right, but I'm like, I kind of get what you're saying, that people attract them, you know, they give them a job, or they feel like they need them somehow. And, you know, a lot of it is unconscious, of course, because that's the thing. Like, there is such an easy way to get rid of them, like super easy. It's just that when people are unconscious to their presence, then, you know, they always think it's themselves talking, because most people will not physically see them, or if they would hear them, they would think it's, you know, just their own thoughts. So that's the tricky part.
I have a friend, he's died twice and came out of his body and stuff, and he's never seen any shadows before. And also there's another friend of mine who's an evangelist, and he's a viro, and he's never has either. He's a deliverance minister. So I showed them both at 2 separate locations. One was in Orlando and one was in Austin, Texas. And I snapped my fingers and told them to come forth. We shut off the lights in the bedroom, and you could still see around his bed area, and all these shadows started to come out, just like I did in the military. And it's nothing to play with, of course, and it could be very dangerous. And they come as easy as a wish, but harder for them to leave. And so my buddy was like, whoa, he never seen it. He was open, and he's like, then he goes, cool. Then my other friend, the religious evangelist guy, was they started touching him or just all over him, and his mind was blown. He was like, why are they in my house? And he said, I plead the blood of Jesus over my house, and was very confused. And they think that pictures of saints or stuff with prayers in the name of Jesus during deliverances, it would just go into another person that's attracting that similar energy that they were need for a learning lesson as well.
So would you call them in to have a conversation, or would you call them in to let them go? What's the intention behind it?
My intention before during those times is I was still growing as well, and someone wanted their mind open for it, and both of us agreed, and we're totally open, and we can pretty much harvest this power for either way that we want to, according to our intention, as long as we don't put judgment on it. But it depends what comes afterwards when we release these portals in the person's home, how much they have afterwards, because
Right.
afterwards they start to be drained and go through other depression and a worse route.
Right. But looking at this, and maybe I'm going a little bit too much into detail, but would you say that these are actually all demons, not really hanging on to the definition of what it would mean, or could these also be just entities that are lost, or entities that don't realize they don't have a body, or just entities with a job? Do you see no difference into like an entity, or a demon is an entity too, of course, but like a demon is different than like an entity.
Great. I do have a theory I would like to share with you guys about that I believe is very interesting. So whenever we pass and the two do not become one, and we're not engaging with our soul through perceptions or feelings, or we're not having a relationship, or we're not choosing love, and we're living an egotistic life, choosing the external the whole time.
Like everybody on earth?
I know, right? Exactly. Or the Bible called worshiping Satan. Then our personality or our spirit will merge with consciousness on the external field, and it'll become a sub-personality, meaning that it'll be like a lost soul, because the soul doesn't have an emotions either. It's like a portal, and then there's a cloud on the outside of the orb of the soul, and people see different dimensions, of course, especially humans. So whenever they're getting this fire that they talk about of eternal damnation, it's when they're close to someone's soul, there's this heat there, the heat of God, the fire of God that's spoken about, and it really does burn. And it's also the most purest energy that they can try to consume from when a person's sleeping and really drowsied out. And it's like they're wandering around on a human lifespan until reincarnation occurs, and if the two become one, then you have eternal life. But since they chose a temporary, then there's a recycle happening into the process that goes. So that theory there.
Right. Yeah, I do see that. Yeah, absolutely. But those you just call entities.
Yeah, better that way. Shadows, entities. Because when we start calling spirit of Jezebel, incubus, succubus, demonology, and then it becomes I like to use like maybe a mainstream word, fair for everybody, easier.
Yeah.
Entities, yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I'm still learning, and I know that there probably is so much that I still do not know, but I have sort of started beginning to see like a difference between entities, or which ones would be like really that I would call demons, right? And demons don't look like the demons in the movie. I mean, demons can look like just regular entities. So that's difficult to differentiate. And another thing that I've noticed, that demons can pretend to be something else, right? They can pretend to
shape-shifting.
Yeah, they can pretend like they could pretend to be the energy of your grandmother, who is like sweet and nice and a good entity, so to say, and they would like try to mimic their energy, but the one thing that they cannot mimic is the light.
That's right. That's right, because they're using images and they come with a shadow behind it. So same with someone having a sexual desire and they're sleeping in their dreams, and someone that they idoled, a celebrity, someone they liked or whatever it was, will come to them in their dreams, and then they'll end up waking up, or they'll see their spouse next to them if they're doing that, sleeping this way, and they thought their spouse was on top of them. And many stories and many examples, even video footages. And
right. Yeah, that's insane. Interesting. Well, I would be interested though, that if you call them, you engage or you interact, or they come closer, and you say, well, you have to be careful, of course, because it can be dangerous. I know it doesn't have to be. It's sort of like they would only, I would say they would only become dangerous if they feel threatened, if they feel like they have to go, but they don't want to go. So what's your experience with that?
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. If it could be dangerous if someone's immature and they're playing around with energy in a way where they become, because I love curiosity and I never take curiosity from anybody. And I don't like to quote curiosity kill the cat. I like to quote curiosity is intelligence. And that's what that can help bring intelligence as well. But there could be some immaturity behind certain people's curiosity, of course, even as we see through nature as well, in natural world. So I guess that takes a natural discernment for somebody. Like when a baby comes out and knows to suck on the mother's nipple and doesn't have to be taught in those type of ways, where it's a natural curiosity instead of one where their person has fear prior and then they're going to do it.
Right.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah, I wonder if curiosity is better than what they teach you to be fearful of. You know what I mean? Like in church, a lot people just don't really have encounters and experiences, I feel like, because they're kind of taught, oh, that could be demonic, or don't go there because that, and it's just a lot of fear. And so I wonder if curiosity and willing to explore would be less dangerous than walking in fear.
Right. Yeah, they always do the do not eat out of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and use traditions and cultures. As the Bible said, traditions and cultures makes the spirit of God of no effect. That type of thing. So whenever we're having memories, programs, data of fear, and fear is also an emotion that attract those shadows as well, as we're going to come into it.
Yeah.
It releases a heat for them, like a scent. So
Wow.
that thing. So we can go into these realms in boldness, or with God, as God is love. We could go with love with no strings attached, and we can live our life like that at our fullest potential instead of being victimized, and it's by choice. God has his greatest gifts on the other side of fear.
Well, and the thing is that, like you said, the fear is not real, right? The fear is the lower consciousness, and it's a low vibration, and it's not real. And there's nothing that we should be afraid of, because, if they would mean you harm, your light will kill them. I mean, basically, that's what's it. I mean, the thing that they want to scare people, or maybe the problem is also that I think most of humanity is just scared of it. Even what we see in Hollywood, in the movie and those things, that people just scared of a demon, or even just entities, even just people who have died, they're afraid of. But of course, to be honest, that if we don't acknowledge our own power, they can be dangerous, because they will make you harm yourself or harm other people. The darkest of the darkest will definitely, like, if people would think like, I'm gonna kill myself, or take a knife and stab somebody, that's never your own voice. It's just that if you're aware of the presence of the demons, and you just observe, and like, hey, okay, so this is demon talking, and you take it from there, and nothing bad has to happen. It's just that a lot of people are not aware of this. They're not conscious of the presence of the demons. And that's when when you look at the 3D manifestation, what happens is, of course, all this anger and aggression and killing, or whatever happens. So I do get the part where people might be afraid, but it all stems from not really knowing and acknowledging the power that we have within ourselves.
I love that part. Yeah, that's it. Not knowing who we are, never to sit still and realize, that we are. Yep.
And
this is my lady Serenity here, and say hi to her.
Hi guys. Hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
More about being comfortable. I think people are afraid of
being comfortable in our life.
Yes, get very comfortable. That's what us to be uncomfortable.
Oh, that's what scares us, to be uncomfortable. Yes.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, that's what I had to learn as well, to be comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Definitely. And I was just wondering, Deanna, what your take on that is, as we're talking about the demons. A friend of mine, who also goes to church, and was telling me something from the Bible where they would say that the devil had already lost when, when Jesus died, when Jesus was crucified. What could you explain? And I was like, I get it to a part when I was saying, like, yeah, they have already lost because they don't have the power. We have the power within us. So it's kind of like, it's just that when we give them the power, they win. But from that part of the Bible, or from what he said to me, is there something that you would like to say to that?
Yeah, I mean, when Jesus died on the cross, he said, "It is finished," and everyone kind of has their own idea of what that means. Some people, kind of think that means we have to do nothing, and that doesn't really sit right with me, I guess, that perspective, because, for me, I've kind of had to, work into maturity and those kinds of things, but it's like, it's available to us. We have access to everything, but it's like, I use this analogy, like when the children of Israel left Egypt, right? It's like, there's a difference of like being able to see the promised land and actually entering the promised land and actually having inheritance of the promised land. And the promised land, I kind of tie that in with like the activation of our divine nature inside of us, and like operating out of our divine nature that was given back to us, like that access was given back to us to restore who we were created to become before sin, came through Adam. Like that access is there, but I don't think everyone truly like knows how to access and function in it. What would you say to that, Nico?
Definitely on the subject of that the devil is pretty much defeated by the finished work of Jesus Christ. That there is even Jesus's genealogy is allegorical, as we say, Abraham and Sarah, and that's what it starts off with. And this is what I love about it, is even the name Jesus, and name is identity, expression, character of. And Jesus means Yahweh, is Yahweh is salvation, and Yahweh is I am that I am salvation. And in John 17, he says, there's no one to change but self. And he found it to be the hardest saying. So if we look at it like this too, Paul even says, after the finished work of the cross, I pray that we all awaken to righteousness, even himself. And righteousness in Hebrews 4:12, I believe it says righteousness is to exercise your spiritual senses so you can discern between what's functional and dysfunctional. And this is what determines a mature believer. So after the cross and on the day of Pentecost, when he asked his disciples to, when he breathed on them or blew on them to receive the Holy Spirit, he told them, wait, don't leave the city of Jerusalem. Wait and tarry and linger in expectation until the Spirit comes upon you and endue you with power. And he told them to stay there as they were hiding in the upper room. And he went to the locked doors. He told them to keep on hiding still, because the Roman soldiers were going to murk them, because demons were still in their ear. And for people to choose by choice to accept, to or even if we mention what cross is, and go into the meaning of all this stuff, because Paul says, I refuse to know nothing but Christ and him crucified, and what Christ means. And Christ in Greek is kaios, which another translation means conscious life energy. So whenever we get on that cross, as we we're saying before, Deanna, and we crucify ourselves, or we crucify our egotistic nature, we crucify our flesh, and we're now, if we're not paying attention to the external world, now we're in the eternal world. And in the spiritual world, there is no consciousness. In the spiritual world, there is no demons, no Satan. And that's where it's finished at, as a way that I see it as well, is whenever we go within into the kingdom and we expand it upon the earth, we can live that type of life.
I like that.
Yeah. And as you were saying that, I'm sort of getting like, what's the significance of it all? It's like,
Right.
it so doesn't have to be all the drama and all the anger and the fear and whatever that is, right? It's just if you when you choose the lightness and you choose the consciousness,
Choose, let it go and choose.
yeah, yeah. It's like
Go and choose.
what's the point in choosing all the heaviness and choosing all the drama? And there's so much more. And then sort of what if life is just about having fun? What if if you just do it for the fun of it and it's just a game? You know, a lot of things are so heavy and so significant. And like here, we're actually the three of us, we're all talking together, and we come from different backgrounds. We sort of, I wouldn't say different perspective, but we have our own way of saying things and approaching things, and still, whether there's overlap or not, it's like we're talking about it. And the way that we all do it in our own way and it works for us, then
That's it, right?
works, right?
It is within ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that. It's just that it doesn't really matter. And I truly believe that whatever everyone thinks that a God is, I truly believe that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just that the intention, and if you sort of get the game of life.
It's funny because if we sit and talk about the Holy Spirit, it means nothing talking about, because he says the gospel is not of mere words, but of power and demonstration, living the lifestyle. It's there's nothing to talk about it. And this is what we're doing here. We're not just talking about it. Our words carry life and truth, and there's messages and meanings and ways within a person that they can use and do. Right. And we're in a time of information, but we're not sitting down meditating on any of this stuff nowadays. And here's something practical. If a person's here as well and they want to feel a glimpse of something different but good, I guess you could say, then they can just simply relax their body. If you don't want to try this as well, as you have done this many times, if you just want to relax your body and get really comfortable, let all your burdens go, not worrying about a thing, and just go to your soul by faith. Just feel heat within your solar plex, and just feel your soul, and start sending gratitude and love to your soul for a few seconds with real intention, and make it so indescribable, greater than the day that if you gave birth, or greater than it all, just so happy and thankful and gratitude, and send it to the spiritual world, and actually authentically and genuinely express yourself as honest as possible. Like Bruce Lee says, not lying to oneself. Now that, my friend, is very hard to do. And we just put all that energy in there and send it right back to the spiritual world, and the spiritual world send it right back to us. And we keep it going as a dialogue, and we'll get more responses and more. And we can keep this going even as multitasking in a way, where it becomes automatic. And you
go start your day and you just let it flow. Yeah. Yeah. You're like this walking, talking meditation. Yeah. I do the exact same thing. It's just, I love that. And almost even in the same words, right, Deanna? If I do things that I do in my sessions, I sort of, mention the same thing. I love it.
Yeah, I think, I view that as really truly being one in the spirit realm. And it's like, when you can tap into that space, it's like you're like aware of like kind of who is there with you, or the energy flow and where it's coming from, even if you're not, you could be like hundreds or thousands of miles apart and still like have the awareness. And you wouldn't even necessarily have to communicate with words, but like I can kind of do that on maybe a really low scale or whatever, but and then you were talking about like not talking about it doesn't really accomplish anything, right? If we just sit here and talk about it, it's the spirit world is power and demonstration, I think, something like that. But like Ruby, she doesn't come from like the religious foundation, I guess you could say, but like I have seen
spiritual world.
I have seen more fruit, actual real fruit, like they would say, manifestation coming out of her life than I
more than
really
all the churches and the pastors and all the rest of it all. And anybody that
Yeah.
ever spoke the Bible, then looking at Ruby's life and
Yep.
knowing her. hmm
And
The stuff
you know,
is her life.
yeah, I'll just share something a little bit personal here. It's like someone said to me that like they were kind of trying to make a slam against me, and they said, well, you had to find someone halfway across the world to be able to find someone to get along with. And I was like thinking to myself, well, it's kind of sad that I had to like connect with someone halfway across the world that actually could see who I really was.
Ain't that something? That's beautiful. Wow, that is.
Oh, is it sad or is it, I mean, maybe we agreed to meet each other.
I mean,
this
it's beautiful
lifetime.
to me, actually. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
glad that it happened
I
for
mean,
whatever reason, you know, that came out of it, but it's just been
Like,
amazing.
It's like before we jumped in, it's like, I'll see you down there.
I know, right?
Oh, wait a minute. You're going to live on the other side of the world? Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, how
You're-
are we going to do that? And then it just happened as if by magic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's to tell you something, it's when I jumped in something that was like, is this for me? And it wasn't for me, it wasn't what I'm supposed to do, like far from it, but it was something that I had to choose because that's where I met you. And I don't know if I would have met you any other way. I wouldn't even know how. So
I love
Right.
this talk because I never really ever, I think this is probably my first podcast ever in my whole life where I spoke about the dark side just a tiny bit. I didn't really speak about my personal encounters, but I love that. I don't care about that stuff. I love the lovely stuff and the beautiful stuff. And now we're ending it on this note.
yes, well, I mean, but that's the thing. It's everything,
Mhm.
and
It-
and especially if you want to pursue consciousness, what
That's
I
right.
always say, it
And the-
includes everything and it judges nothing.
Yeah.
And it's not about the good or the bad. And even
Mhm.
ourselves, we are also the good and the bad.
That's
We've
right.
been good, we've been bad, we've been everything in this life or in every lifetime. And judging it's not helping us. Seeing it for what it is what helping us. And I actually want to touch on that, what you were saying when you were doing the short meditation. You were saying, be honest to yourself or don't lie to yourself. I don't
Yes.
remember which words we used. And Deanna and I talked about it a few days ago, where we sometimes don't even realize that we are lying to ourselves. And it's
Energetically.
not, energetically. I mean, it's not like lies of words, but like in the energy, like truth. Are you really choosing that, or have you
Purest
chosen that?
forms
Yes or
of
no?
lies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so it's so unconscious that we need to become conscious of all the lies that we're still telling ourselves and all the agendas that we still have ourselves.
Right.
Right. So
It's even very humble even to admit on this podcast we were lying to ourselves probably 3 million times a second. No, I'm just kidding, but it's something like that though if you think about
something like that. Yeah.
it.
No, but it's
How unconscious it is, yeah. But we give
it's
ourselves
true.
grace. Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. And just by saying no, I'm all truth, I'm all light, I'm all about the truth. It's like it's not even about that. It's not even about like not speaking the truth, because you wouldn't even think that you're
Right.
lying, or you're not even intentionally lying. It's just that, like you
Yeah.
said, it's the energy that hasn't moved yet, and it's about acknowledging where the energy is.
It's funny when we think about it like that. Whenever we judge energy or emotions, energy and motion, that's its natural law state, and we put it in solitary confinement like a judge and say you're
Right.
guilty, and we falsely accused. And now there's a Bible verse too that says, "In my Father's house is many rooms. If it wasn't not so, I would not tell you so." Like there's love in the heart, in our body, and fear in the kidneys could be liver, anger, and shoulders, burden, all that stuff. So we
Mhm.
judge the energies going through us, trying to have a relationship and vibrating through. But whenever we judge it, it's sticking on us. It has its own appropriate spot that it goes to, and it either creates illusions of tumors and different things as indicators and pain signs, showing us, since pain is information, as we know, but it's indicators beeping around saying you need to let that burden go. Oh, you ain't letting it go yet. Maybe it needs to be bigger for his eyes to see it.
Right,
Like,
right. Oh,
yeah.
absolutely. I mean, and then it becomes really clear, like, when the body is like showing it that way. But as you're saying, we judge emotions, and a lot of times I also give people exercises in take that emotion, and for example, take the emotion, pain, or I'm not good enough, and just observe it and look at it, and then it's just energy, and we judge it as bad because it doesn't feel good to us. But you've invented that emotion, you brought it in, and now you're saying, well, you have to go because you don't feel good to me. And then that emotion is like, but you called me in here, right? You made me true and real. And now you're saying that I'm bad, that I'm mean, that I don't feel good, that I need to go.
It's like adopting a child and crying over spilled milk.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's like, why? It's not. And so I teach people to like, okay, look at it that way. Observe. Look at what you're doing. And what if you would just ask what it wants, and then it sometimes just wants to be acknowledged. And it's like, oh, okay, oh, you don't have to go. You can just sit there, and then it just becomes softer. And it's weird, it's actually really weird the way human engage with emotions, and I know they think it's stupid when I like take them in front of me and look at them and speak to them. Then I'm weird, of course, but but that's how energy works.
Right. Exactly. It is like that. The observation or the judgment, right? And our observation is the unconditional love of those emotions going through us on a moment to moment basis, and we pile enough up where we just get buried in it, literally.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh gosh, guys, I think we should sort of maybe do another conversation again, because people are not going to watch it if we're going to have like 3-hour conversations on
This is like the longest one we've ever had, I think.
Yes.
On accident.
Right.
But
But
divinely purpose, yeah.
I do love all the different topics, and I do like to, the way that we can touch on everything. And
Yes, exactly.
I think that's very interesting for everyone. It's just that look at what is, and just seeing everything and talking about everything. And the way that we look at this group of conscious leadership, and where we're looking at building the ark, we're always looking at, so what's required for building the ark, which hands are going to help to build the ark, who are part of the community of building the ark. And of course everyone is invited. It's just that you'll have those groups coming together, and then coming back to the analogy of the birds, it's like which birds are in groups together, and where do all the birds fit in. Yeah,
exactly, right. All these systems, even through history, how everything succeeded, and through nature, are very organized naturally,
right,
through love.
right. So well, whatever shows up, and I really like to thank you, Nico. It was an amazing conversation, and thank you for being here. Is there anything that you'd like to say to close off, Deanna?
Not really, just that it's been an honor and just a pleasure, and hopefully, this connection will continue and create something magical.
Absolutely. I would definitely, well, we're going to talk again, I'm sure. Cool. Well,
Super
everyone who've been watching to the end, thank you for that. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time.
Did you want to say anything, Nico, really quick?
Oh yeah, just such an honor and a pleasure and a blessing to be here, to know you both. And the Divine Talk was super amazing. I love how we articulated everything, and everyone that's watching as well. Thanks for being a team and supporting, and we love you too.
Amazing. Thank you. On that note, bye.
Bye.